goal of that public meeting, we would like to talk to you as a group about doing this in partnership with us, because it's been super successful and we want to continue with the partnership that we've developed with the West Louisville Community Council. At that meeting, we'd like to give each development team an opportunity to present their proposal to whoever attends that meeting. And the goal of that pitch or that presentation will be just to give the public the highlights of what's in the proposal to us. What we did with the Urban Government Center public meeting after we got the responses back is we gave each development team 7 minutes to talk about their proposal in 7 slides. And so we set out the content of each of the slides so that everybody got to see a site plan, everybody got to see a mix of uses that were proposed for the site, everybody got to see a list of who the development team consisted of, all the different partners in the project, financing, how the proposal responded to the community vision, and then I can't remember what the last 2 slides were, but Allison might be able to remember. How Vision Louisville, which is another set of city priorities that we want proposals to respond to, were reflected in the proposal, and then I can't remember the other one.
I can't remember.
Anyway, there were 7 slides. You had a minute approximately to talk about each slide, and I have to say it's really hard to get a presentation done in 7 minutes when you have so many things to talk about. So I ended up having to cut every single one of those poor developers off. But it worked out because after the pitch session, after everybody got to give their 7-minute spiel, there was an open house style meeting where people who attended the evening event had a chance to actually go up to each of the development teams to ask questions and to get a better understanding of each development proposal. So we wanted to give everybody a little taste, but then we also wanted to engage people in a more one-on-one dialogue with the development teams so that they could ask their questions and see that developer up close and personal when they answered those questions. We also had a person with Metro Government stationed at each one of the developer tables. So they had a board that showed their site plan and their use mix and their development partners, but they also had a second board that the city provided. And that board was another opportunity for us to collect more community feedback about those development proposals. So we'd like to have the same opportunity happen, although it doesn't have to be in the same format, for the proposals that we receive for the Heritage West site. But our goal is to put those proposals out there, have that meeting, give people an opportunity to comment on how well they think each proposal addresses the community's vision, and also the 7 different areas that are addressed in Vision Louisville, which line up really well with the community vision. If you categorize things that people say, they tend to fit into things like how sustainable is the site being developed, and how livable is the area around the site because of what's being proposed for the site. And so each of those themes will have its own little column, or at least in our minds, have a way to categorize comments into those areas. And then from there, we'll keep a public comment period open so that people can continue to see the proposals on our website, and we'll continue to collect community feedback for probably 4 to 6 weeks if we're doing things the same way that we're doing them for the Urban Government Center. And then from there, we'll compile the community feedback again, and we'll post it all on our website because we want to make sure that people still have a chance to see what everybody else is thinking. And then we will assemble a review committee. And that review committee will ask for more detailed information from each of the development teams, and then from there, by consensus, make a recommendation to Louisville Forward, and Louisville Forward will continue negotiating with one or more of the development teams as recommended by this review committee. So what we have said to date about the review committee that's been assembled for the Urban Government Center is not terribly much. In the interest of making sure that members of the review committee have a chance to make decisions without a whole lot of pressure from people saying, I know you're on the review committee, what are you going to say about this? Or I really think you should say this about this proposal. We're keeping the identity of the members of the review committee secret. We are really treating these projects like economic development projects. And so for everybody's peace of mind and everybody's well-being, we're also asking members of the review committee to sign non-disclosure agreements so that they understand that the information that they're going to be getting from developers is sensitive and therefore probably can't be talked about outside of the review committee. Do you have a question, Frank?
How many folks on the?
There are 9 members of the review committee, and although I can't tell you much more about it than that, what I can say is that we are continuing our commitment to the involvement of the public in our decision-making process, and so our review committee reflects that commitment and also highly prioritizes the feedback that we get from the community during the public comment period and during the visioning session. So without saying too much more, I hope you understand where I'm going with that.
If I tell you, I have to kill you.
Great, yeah, exactly. So, you know, our review committee for the Urban Government Center is going to start meeting later this month. And after a little bit of an orientation to how we're going to work together and how we're going to make decisions together by consensus, the committee will start going through the proposals in more detail and asking for more information from each of the development teams as they see it's appropriate to do so. So the kinds of information that they might ask for are more detailed information about sources and uses of funds. So where are you going to get your money from to finance this project, and how are you going to use it, and how much does it really cost to do what you're planning to do? Because the proposals that we've gotten, if you've looked at them, don't have a particularly high level of detail on those kinds of things. There are great site plans and there are great lists of the kinds of uses that each development team proposes for that site, but not a ton of detail about getting a financing commitment from Main Source Bank, and I'm going to couple that with my own equity, my own money in the deal, and I'm also going to ask for tax credits for these kinds of things, and I'm going to ask the city to do my sidewalks. There's none of that information. We didn't expect to get it. What we did expect and what we got on financing were pretty high level. We think it's going to cost this much. We think we might have this much debt. We think we might have this much of an equity investment of our own in the project. But nothing super detailed. Nobody actually gave us a letter of commitment from a bank saying, I'm willing to loan you $15 million for this project. It's too early.
Mm-hmm.
So those kinds of details will come out for the review committee as the process continues. And then we expect that the review committee will take probably the next 2 to 3 months to have those conversations. So we'll meet, we'll ask a bunch of questions, we'll go back to the development partners that have proposed to us and say, here's a list of the things the review committee wants to see. You have a month to turn around and answer to us. It's entirely possible that the review committee will want to have in-person meetings with all of the development teams or some of the development teams. We just don't know until we really dig into it. And then it's also possible that there could be a second round of interviews or meetings with development teams as the review committee really digs into the questions that they want to see answered and understands the proposals in more detail. But at the front of all of this conversation is the community vision, and I really can't stress enough to you how important we think that is and how seriously we're taking the feedback that we've gotten. Not just for the Urban Government Center property, but for the Heritage West property, which is really what we're here to talk about. I'm just using Urban Government Center because it's the model we've got going right now. So as we go through this same or very similar process for the Heritage West property, we're going to continue to look back to those community priorities. We're going to continue to look back to our Vision Louisville priorities. And we're going to continue to reinforce with our process that the comments that we got from the public are of the utmost importance to our decision-making process. So that's sort of the story, and that's how we're planning to move forward with this project as well. So I am more than happy to answer questions because I'm sure I just generated a bunch. Yes, sir?
Well, just in terms of the review committee, I know we can't talk about it, but who selected the people on the review committee, and do they represent West Louisville residents?
So this the review committee for Heritage West has not yet been selected.
Okay.
And without saying too much, we have members of the review committee were selected in part because they had certain skill sets, and so I'm going to just say it because I've said it in other community meetings actually. But I'm not talking about it anymore for Urban Government Center, right? I cut myself off. Yeah. But so our review committee, the commitment that we made in our review committee is that we would have members of the public. And those members of the public have been selected by representatives of their Metro Council district, I would expect that we would have something similar go on in this situation. Nobody tell anybody. It's out there. And the reason that we wanted to do that is because I don't feel like I'm particularly qualified to say that person is actually the person who deserves to have a spot on this review committee. Because as you know, as much as I've been working on this solicitation and coming to community meetings, it's not my place to make that decision. And so with the Urban Government Center, that's a property that's in a particular district, but it touches a couple of other districts. And so there was a great opportunity to say, maybe someone who knows that district better because they are a representative of that district is in a better place to say, that's the person or that's my people. So I can envision something similar happening in this case. Yes.
So to follow that up, so the expertise that you need for development, the legal, financial, all that, will come then from your staff
Yes.
to support that review committee?
Yes, and there are members of the review committee who are Louisville Metro government employees, and so it's a balanced mix,
Okay.
50-50-ish.
Okay,
And we have folks on the review committee who shall remain nameless, who have
Mhm.
expertise in the kinds of questions that may come up during the review process. We are also going to make other representatives of Louisville Metro government who have other kinds of expertise around development available for questions and answers as part of the review committee's
Good.
meetings.
You know, coming from a long-time real estate family, you can't negotiate this kind of thing out in the public. I
That's
mean,
exactly
there's
right.
a certain point at which you have to stop being
Right,
public.
yes.
And then all the public happens at the top of the funnel, and you hope that it comes down to the, you know, where the results are.
That's right.
But, there's just no way that you can negotiate out in.
There's really not, and so the closest we feel like we can get to it is this composition of the review
Yeah.
committee where we have people who are committed to the public piece of it involved, but also a process that reflects with very high importance the feedback that we've gotten from the community about the actual things that are being reviewed.
Right.
And so it's super hard to make something like this totally open because we are gonna deal with really sensitive information in a very short order. But at the same time, we really wanted to make sure that we continued getting the feedback from people. Yeah. Hi.
Can you say, are you able to say how many responses or how many proposals have been submitted?
For Heritage West,
Yeah.
so far we haven't received any, but that's not
Oh, that's
surprising.
right, you said it's because everybody waits till the last minute.
And for the Urban Government Center project, we received our last proposal when we were right down to the wire at the very bitter end at 5 p.m. And so I don't expect to see anything before the day that the proposals are due. It's fine. I wait till the last minute too.
Could you, tell us about, how many people attended those meetings on site?
Yes, so between the two meetings, I would estimate that we had between 15 and maybe 20 people there. So it was quite well attended and very comparable to the number of people that attended the similar meetings for the Urban Government Center property.
Each visit or both visits, 15 to 20.
I would say in total without duplication, between 15 and 20. Yeah, because you're right, some people did come to more than one of those meetings, to both.
So, looking at the Urban Government Center as a pattern,
Yep.
what are you anticipating from solicitation till announcement of developer as a timetable?
So for the Urban Government Center property, our review committee is gonna start meeting later this month. We expect that conversation to be wrapped up by August, early September. And so probably by September, October, possibly into November, we'll negotiate further with developers that have been recommended to us by the review committee. So I expect that before the end of the year, we'll have a development team announced. So
So
all
solicitation was
told,
when?
it was just a few weeks before the Heritage West solicitation. I think it was done in late January, early February.
So we're talking about 11, 10, 11 months.
But what I can say is that we know what we're doing more this time around, because this is the second round. And so I think we will be able to be more effective with our establishment of the review committee and our actual review of the development proposals that we received. So with Urban Government Center, it probably took us 5 or 6 weeks to get through all of them. But I think we have a better system in place now, because practice makes perfect. So I hope that we'll be able to move more efficiently through this process.
But if we were to say 10 to 12 months, maybe a good
Yes, if you give us that, then we have a cushion. I'd rather exceed expectations than leave it all hanging.
Or as a community member in the meantime, what kind of pop up temporary, do something to mow the grass and have a little life on that lot?
Yes,
In the
so
city.
I hear ya. So, I think we are still working to install the billboard.
We are, and it's right behind you.
Awesome.
Yes, so we have the complete artwork, and we have to get some quotes from some billboard people.
Great, yeah. And are we helping you with quotes?
Not yet,
You guys.
but you are helping with paint.
Yes, right?
Yeah,
So,
you're gonna
okay.
be paying for it.
Yeah, no, we totally are. We totally are. Okay, well, just keep me posted on that.
Okay.
The property is on our mowing schedule, but you know how our mowing schedule goes. And we
Well,
can,
that's just, and
I
excuse me for
know.
speaking out of
No,
turn,
please
that's,
do.
that's a good, at this point, high profile site.
Yep.
That if nothing else, program it for some weekend farmers markets.
Yep.
You know, just get a little bit of activity other than just
uh-huh.
a dumping ground.
Yeah, no, and I hear you on that, and I will tell you, that pile of rubble that consistently maintains itself at Muhammad Ali and 30th has been an issue since before we really even owned
Right.
the property.
Mhm.
And I have made efforts, although perhaps not recently enough, to try to get that pile of stuff taken away, because it's not okay that it's there. So I will redouble my efforts on that question. I think I know who's doing it, and it's an issue. And I can also get with our property maintenance folks and make sure that they prioritize that property so that it gets more regular attention than it does, because you're right, it's a really big, really visible piece of property, and it probably deserves a little more love than it's getting.
Right.
Okay.
Right, but you brought up a great point,
Uh-huh.
because once we get the property cleaned up, then it'll be easier for us to do events there until.
But
Right.
can we,
I think
for
so.
insurance purposes?
So the short answer with a really long sub-answer is yes. But when Seed Capital Kentucky put on the Harvest Festival, the reason it was in 30th Street and not on the site is because the city is really, really tough on insurance for stuff like that. And the coverage that our risk management folks were gonna require of Seed Capital Kentucky to actually do things on the property was ridiculous. By really any set of standards, ridiculous. And so it became easier to just close the street than it was to actually be on the property. So it's not that it can't be done, it's just that it may be really expensive and complicated to do it. Now, with that said, if there are things that pop up that don't invite people onto the property, so the billboard's a great example, other art installations would be a good example, things that don't ask people to come on the property and engage with them, that's way easier for us, because if you're just putting something on the property for people to look at, but not to come and interact with, you don't have to worry about insuring against any sort of injury that might happen to somebody who's on the property, because if you've ever walked it,
It's uneven.
it's uneven, right? And there are foundations that go like this, and you might not really see them because you might be looking somewhere else and it doesn't really have a yellow line painted on it, so your eye gets drawn to it. So it's a tricky site because of that topography and the terrain on the with the foundation still in place in a couple of spots. And there's a 6-foot elevation change from the south side to the north side. And so part of that is those big step downs. So if there is an interest in doing something around the site, that's a much easier conversation than doing something on the site.
Teresa,
Yes.
if West Louisville Community Council wanted to do a street closed event
Uh-huh.
on the 30th, do we have to have insurance?
I believe you need insurance for an assembly, which is a heck of a lot easier than doing it for an assembly plus the site.
Right.
So, yes, but
And that's through
easier.
the city?
You would get insurance through a third party,
Okay.
and you would name the city as an indemnified party.
An additional insurance.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'll just mention that Produce Park, is insured. And-
Right, and you're right across the street
Yeah.
from the site, so that might be a really good option. Bye.
Thank you. Any other questions? All right. Thank you, Teresa,
Thank
very
you
much.
very much.
Thank you for the information. All right, so the next agenda item was to discuss a little bit about the survey. I sent out a survey, guess almost a month ago, to kind of get feedback on what will help make it easier for us to have meetings and information about leaders, finding new leaders, what should we look for leaders. We had about 7 responses.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, so I think we need to go ahead and send that out again and encourage people to respond so we can have some better feedback on the best way to proceed with meetings, ideas for leaders, and that type of thing. As we're talking, this meeting was the first meeting that we used MailChimp to disseminate information, and we used Eventbrite to get people to kind of RSVP. I know that MailChimp went out yesterday. We set it up Friday, but I do know that I had sent out in a previous meeting that this was gonna be the meeting date. So I didn't feel too bad about sending it out last night as a reminder. But how did that MailChimp work for everyone? Was that better than just sending straight email?
I think I saw mine on Facebook.
You saw yours on Facebook, and we got Facebook going too. So I'm part of the Marketing and Communications Committee, but as many of you were all volunteering, and we all have limited skill sets with certain things. And so we had Valerie Magnuson stepped up and helped us get going with MailChimp. She's also an executive committee member from Portland. And so she had the skills and the knowledge of working with the MailChimp and the ideas about the Eventbrite. So we're gonna try that and continue to see about using that as a communication method versus then me sending out the email.
It does look professional. I mean, I struggle with that too, of like, do I just do some mail merge stuff, but yeah, no, it's a good call.
Also, it'll put it on your calendar for you, and that's awesome.
And you can,
Okay.
and you can also track like clicks, I mean, that people, we're all in that system, and you can track actual activity that people do.
Yeah, okay.
The only thing for me was, I did the Eventbrite thing, and then it, like you said, I think it automatically puts it on your calendar. It did it on Pacific time for me. I don't know if that ended up but
You just travel too much.
at all. But so I just, maybe it was a setting on my end, but
And it could have been a setting on our end because before I sent it out, I noticed the issues that I caught quickly. So it could have been one that I didn't look deeply
but
at.
that was great having that go out like that. It helped. That was.
Okay. All right, so we will
And I
continue.
wasn't sure whether or not I needed to pay for a ticket.
You didn't know if you need to pay for a ticket?
Yeah, when it started saying in the shopping cart and everything, I was like, well, hold on a second.
No, it's all free.
Well, they didn't tell you there's a basket before you leave.
All right, Eventbrite and MailChimp work. All right, and the last thing, because we might get out at 7 o'clock. The last thing on the agenda was to talk about expanding leadership. I have been invited to serve on the Metro Planning Commission. And I accepted the invitation. My name has been read into the committee, and I'll go into discussion this week. So if I am approved to be on the Planning Commission, it's going to be very challenging for me to do both of these things. So we spoke as an executive committee, and if I am approved, the plan is that I will continue now through June, and then as a council, we're going to have to kind of figure out how to redistribute leadership duties. My thinking is that the more people that we can have represented from West End, the southwest end of Louisville, the better it will help us as a community at large. And I know Mike is on serves as on the commission. Right?
On the Urban Renewal Commission.
On the Urban Renewal Commission, and Matthew.
Yes.
And so Matthew is on the
Affordable Housing Trust Fund.
Affordable Housing Trust Fund. And then if I get onto the Planning Commission, I think we can start to make greater impact. And with that, in order for this council to continue to grow, I think we've made huge strides in just a couple of months. But in order for us to grow, when we get that 501c3 and really looking at what our mission is and our ability to advocate for all 9 West Louisville neighborhoods, that we really need leadership. And right now, the executive committee has started, but I think there's room to identify other leaders within our communities that can step up to this. And one thing that we as an executive committee, and I believe many of us who are sitting around this table right now, what we envision is a strong council that is represented by all 9 West Louisville neighborhoods. And so we can speak collaboratively and advocate collaboratively for all of West Louisville. So there's not any one or any neighborhood that gets left out of these discussions, that we all can move forward together. But the only way that's going to happen is if we have strong, committed leadership with the capacity to think bigger than right now, and the capacity to think about how do the decisions we make now impact future generations. And it's not just about a couple of individuals prospering, but all of us prospering. Yeah, so as these surveys come out and we're asking for suggestions of leaders to move forward with the executive committee members, I really need us to all think really deep and hard about who can step forward to do those things. So that is my spiel right now.
That's a good one,
Well, thank you. But so that means you're gonna be ready to step forward and do some more work, right?
I'm absolutely ready.
All right. Yes, he said he's absolutely ready. Yeah. Yes, and your name and email and everything is on that sign-in list, right?
It will be.
Yes, yes. So, anybody else on the executive committee have anything else they want to add before we close this meeting? Does anyone have any, since we do have time, does anyone have any community announcements that they would like to make? Hello, how are you? Thank you for allowing us the space this evening.
I'm sorry it's a small room. I think with education and everything, but we can switch up next time if we need larger.
Yeah.
Thank you all for being here.
We made it work. It makes us look like we like a
Feels
big
good.
old powwow. Yeah.
It's not small, essentially.
Yes, it's intimate. The people that need to be here are here.
Yes.
Yeah, the people that need to be here. And those who aren't here are gonna see it on that video.
Pieces of it.
All right, so
Ramona,
Yes.
is there a job description for, the role of being on the executive committee? You know, maybe it would be a good idea for some people to think of the characteristics that we need to think about, and the time availability, and some of the, kind of that softer stuff. And when you say these are the things we're looking for, then it helps us think of people who have those qualities and characteristics. Because it's not just that they're a lawyer and but it's how do they work in a group, and, you know, do they have the time to dedicate to whatever piece they say they're gonna take over.
okay.
And this is, you know, this is like a board in lots of ways. And so your role has been wonderful. You've been a cheerleader and an organizer both. But you kind of need to know that that's what, you know, this is not a place for an introvert. Well, I mean, doing the MailChimp and all, you know, some of the other stuff is, but the leader really needs to have a strong commitment like you do and really put it into action.
Thank you.
And Ramona, I was gonna say, maybe reiterating what happened in the beginning about this executive committee, how it was like, how they were nominated and selected, and things of that nature, that might help give people an idea too, that to be coming back around to that process as well.
Okay.
You know?
So part of what the governance structure, I think, committee is also doing is re-looking at, revisiting how the executive committee was selected. Initially, the executive committee was chosen from members of the council, and you had to have attended so many meetings. I worked on a work group with under that food, port, seed capital structure. Once you attended those so many meetings, then you were nominated from members of the council to serve on the executive committee. Then once those nominations were received, there was a vote sent out to the whole council. And then those people who received the majority of those votes were the ones who were selected to be on the executive committee. Before we had looked at that, there was 2 representatives from Russell, Shawnee, Portland, and then there were, and I'm going off the top of my head, so I might not be totally accurate, and there were 2 West Louisville at large members, 2 community at large members, and I think there was supposed to be 1 youth representative. Now this council has decided, as the West Louisville Community Council, to have a 17-member board with 1 representative from all 9 neighborhoods. I think it was 2 community at-large members and 2 or 3 youth members. That's not 17. But I will send that back out to you all. I sent it on our last email. Let me see if I can find it real quick here.
I think there was a representative that had a skill that we were looking after, like an attorney or somebody like that.
Yeah.
Or a professional accountant or something like that.
Yeah, I think that person, when we actually voted, that person would not be like one of the voting members. Here it is. 9 neighborhood representatives, 1 from each West Louisville neighborhood, 4 community at large, any Louisville resident, and 4 youth leaders. So that's 17. Okay. So one of the reasons that I was asked to be on the planning commission was because Marshall Gazaway, who was one of our executive committee members, he was on the planning commission. He moved to Florida. So that's, yeah.
I thought it'd been awfully quiet.
Yeah, he moved to Florida. So his seat is open right now. So, but that also means that we have lost a Russell representative. So currently, we have Renee Goatley, who is our Shawnee representative. Eureka is Russell. Valerie is Portland. Natasha was originally a West Louisville at-large member, but she also lives in the Chickasaw neighborhood, so she could continue as a Chickasaw rep. Reverend Renee was a West Louisville at-large member, but he lives, his church is in Algonquin, so he can serve as an Algonquin representative. I am a community at-large representative, and Gina Dunlap is a community at-large representative. So with me stepping off, that's going to leave a community at-large space come the end of June.
Are you saying that all of the neighborhoods are now represented? Or
California is not represented. In Parkland.
All right.
And Park Hill and Park Duval
Okay.
are not represented. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
5 out of 9.
Represented. So, and part of what you did mention about criteria, what we're looking for, that was one of those things in the survey questions we were asking. What should we be looking for? Because we don't think it should be the members of the executive committee who make that decision, but we should get input from the entire council. What should we be looking for? What type of people, what type of skill set should they have? What type of experiences should they have? And in that survey, we also asked for recommendations of people who we might, if they're not already in the council, we need to figure out how to possibly get some of those people involved. But with 7 responses, I think we can pull, a lot more information from people. And now that we have this MailChimp going on, maybe it look more professional as they feel like this. So,
And you can track them.
yeah, you hadn't done that yet. Okay, so are there any other questions about?
Did y'all talk
Oh,
about
we
the
got to this
22nd
point.
already?
Yes,
We did.
yes.
What y'all say?
All kinds of good stuff. All kinds of good stuff.
We talked about that there will be ample opportunities or several opportunities for the committee to give, the community to give input on the SOIs that are presented. All the SOIs will be put onto the planning website.
The advanced planning.
The
website.
advanced planning website, after they have all been reviewed by the city to make sure that there's no confidential information in there. If there is confidential information, that will be removed before it's put on the site. Once it goes, I can't read with them things on. Once it goes there, they're going to host several public meetings, hopefully some of those in conjunction with the council, where each of the developers or developing groups who submitted SOIs will give a pitch to the community of the highlights of their project. They will have 7 minutes to discuss the proposal in 7 slides. Every developer will have a basically same 7-slide format. And they're basing this format off of what they did for the government center development. So after that, after the pitch, there will be an open house style meeting where each of the developers will have space where community members can come up and talk to them and ask additional questions. And also during that session, there will be a city representative with each developer who will have a board where they will continue to collect feedback from the community as they're talking one-on-one with the developers. Then once they've gotten through all this feedback and looked at all the plans, looked at I guess, summarize the top.
Yep.
Okay, then there will be a review committee. The membership of this review committee will be secret because we want to make sure that the members of the review committee can review without having a lot of outside influence.
Only thing I care about, will they be made public once it's done though? Because there are lots of people who have interest in what happens in this community, and we wanna understand who is looking at it.
You are the first person to ask that question.
Yeah,
And it's a really good one.
It is a very
Sadiqa.
good one, because people are not always honest about what their investment is and
Right.
what they're more interested in.
Right.
And so I think it's great to have it secret on the front end, but at some point, names
got
need
it.
to be revealed.
And
And
off
interest.
the top of my head, I can't see why we would have a problem with that.
Okay.
But we're treating it like an economic development project, so we're gonna ask all
But
members.
that's what it is, isn't it?
It's totally an
Right.
economic
It is
development
an
project,
economic
all of it,
development, yeah.
it all is. So everybody's gonna sign an NDA.
Okay.
But once the project is finalized and we have a selected team, I don't see why the answer would be no.
Okay.
But you know I have to ask Jeff Mosley. how
But that
comfortable
needs
he
to
is
be
with that.
known, we need to understand what it is
Mhm.
before,
Yep,
because just having talked to lots of people in the community about what's happening,
uh-huh,
it's just very interesting how people will listen to you for a long, long time
right,
and then say, well, actually, I was gonna do,
Uh-huh.
So people are very good about keeping secrets.
yes, right.
Let me ask a question off that, this question speaking.
Uh-huh.
Does this mean that the decision of this review committee is final, or does it go to another step?
So the review committee makes decisions or makes recommendations by consensus, and they'll make a recommendation by consensus to Louisville Forward, and then we will continue that negotiation based
Okay,
on what the
all right.
review committee has
So
said
there
to
is
us.
that. But that's a
Yes.
good point, that,
Yeah.
he's making these down.
And that actually is a really great question, and I do have to talk to Jeff Mosley about how comfortable he is with that, but I can't imagine why we would say no.
We'll let you talk to them, but we
Okay.
just want to raise the issue.
After the 7 minutes, 7 slides presentations, and then you said there's going to be kind of a open house.
Yep.
Will there be then an opportunity for feedback from the open house to be shared with the group? So
Yes, absolutely. So we have compiled all the feedback we've gotten from the open house, and if it is not already on our website, it will be very shortly. But we're continuing to hold open that public comment period following the open house for another month. Actually, for Urban Government Center, it's about 6 weeks, and so we want to give people plenty of time to look at the proposals and to read them all, and some of them are really long, and to really digest and absorb what they see in the proposals and reflect on it before they give us feedback, and we just want to give as much time for that as we feel like we can. So we'll do the same thing in this case.
somebody during the open house may ask developer A a
Yep.
question that, like,
Yeah.
bingo, this is something that the
Right.
other ones might,
Right.
we've never thought about that.
Yeah, and you know, one of the most fabulous things that's happening right now is the Paristown Neighborhood Association has invited every single one of those development teams to come to their association meeting
Mhm.
to make another presentation. So they've had one meeting where they had 2 of the teams and another meeting where they had 3 of the teams come in and spend some more time with them.
Mhm.
And they're using that conversation to continue to provide us with feedback, and we just think that's fabulous. Jenny?
Real quick, Ramon, I'm sorry,
Mhm.
question just occurred to me. Just sort of understanding that development projects run into snags and things
Yep.
happen. Is there a process in place that would allow, perhaps say, the runner-up, if something doesn't pan out with the chosen project, say, well, this was our second choice, and if this party is still interested, I'm just curious
Yeah.
as to what that would look like if they're ranking them and.
So, what we expect is that the review committee will make a recommendation that one or more of the proposals be considered for further negotiation. So, I think the answer is yes. If there's a need for a backup proposal, we will have a mechanism through which to identify it.
I have another quick question in
Sure.
reference to that.
Yep,
If it's 2 proposals that can
Mhm.
fit in the same space
yep,
and kind of work in conjunction to establish, those
Mhm.
opportunities or whatever, would that be even considered as well?
Oh, yeah, definitely. We know this space is gigantic. It's 24 acres, it's twice the size of the Urban Government Center property. And so all along, we've said that we're accepting proposals for all or a portion of this property. With the Urban Government Center property, we did the same thing, and we only got proposals for the whole thing. But one of the questions that has come up is what happens if the review committee likes parts of many of the development proposals, and how will that work out? And so the answer that we've given that's now on our website is that if that happens, it's entirely within the realm of possibility that we'll select pieces of many development proposals or more than one development proposal, and each of those teams will have the opportunity to develop their piece of the site for what they've proposed. And then the city would have to do a good job coordinating to make sure that nobody got in each other's way and that it was all very clearly spelled out about who was doing what on the property. The reality may be that if we get proposals for the whole site, those proposals are balanced out so that parts of the project make money and parts of the project don't and have to trail along with the piece that makes money to be successful. So it may not be possible to break up the site. But it's certainly within our realm of possibility as Louisville Metro government that with 24 acres, it's possible that multiple developers will propose multiple things that can all fit on the site. And we're open to everything.
Does the city now control the property across the street from the site?
So at 3025 West Madison, yes, we do. I'm not sure, we bought the property in foreclosure, and I'm not sure that we're through the redemption period, which is why we're not actively marketing it.
But what I was thinking is that there is a possibility that you could get a proposal that was for much less than 24 acres
That could
that could
go
actually
there.
go into that spot.
Yes.
I mean, I keep hearing about some things that won't require 24 acres,
Yep.
that it would be phenomenal
Yeah.
for this process to create a situation where we
Uh-huh.
took care of two huge vacant properties in West
For
Louisville
sure.
simultaneously.
Yeah, I don't even think that we've had a chance to get everybody through that building that needs to see it. I know we've been talking just this week even about getting some more people over there to take a look. But yes, we didn't buy that building because we thought we were gonna put an office there or anything else. We bought it so that we could make it into a redevelopment opportunity for somebody else. So at the right moment, when we've all sort of seen it and gotten a sense of what that's available for, we're definitely open to that.
What's the address of it?
I think it's 3025 West Madison Street. It's the warehouse just to the south of Heritage
Okay.
West.
To really-
You know what I'm talking
Yeah,
about? It's
yeah.
there. It's a cool building.
Yeah.
The warehouse could really be a useful strategic location.
It's a fabulous location, and it could be all kinds of different things just from looking at it.
But it needs environmental cleanup, correct?
Maybe,
The ground.
probably.
I mean,
So that
it also
site-
needs the bricks.
It needs
Every
a
time I
tuck
drive
point,
by, the
doesn't
bricks
it?
are falling
I know,
off
it
onto the
needs a tuck
sidewalk.
point. Jenny, I think you're referencing the fact that the property, the warehouse is next to a property that used to be known as 3B Barrel. And that was barrel washing, and it was pretty dirty, and that site has been in cleanup under the state's guidance, but has not been in active remediation or active cleanup in quite some time. And I don't know if that's because the owner went away and we can't find out who the next person in line is, or if it's really done. And I suspect that it's the owner went away and we don't know what to do about that. So the state's really driving that conversation, but I understand that that property has also been considered for foreclosure. Yeah.
And so all the information that the food court got on the
Uh-huh.
property, on the land,
Uh-huh.
has that been made available to Metro, or did you all do
So-
that work, the cleanup work and the evaluations?
There is a phase 3 environmental assessment on our Heritage West website, and that summarizes all the environmental work that has been done on that property, including a lot of soil samples and analysis that show what's actually going on with it. Seed Capital Kentucky put all of its documentation at the Fraser. And so anybody can go to the Fraser and pull all the work that was done in furtherance of the food port site to understand what those costs look like and what the work looked like.
To the Fraser what?
The Fraser
The
History.
museum.
The museum?
Yes. I'm sorry, I
Not
said
the
that wrong.
first,
It's
the
Filson
Filson
Club.
Club.
Sorry. Not the Fraser.
Yeah, the Filson.
Okay, too many F's, but it's all at the Filson Club and anybody can go look at it.
Somebody's on.
Great. I'll get my coffee
Any other questions? These are good questions. I'm glad I started reiterating.
I know.
What we were saying. Let me finish my reiteration before we leave out. They said that they were probably from the close of the SOI to the development team announcement will possibly be 10 to 12 months. The review committee.
Here's a cushion.
Yeah, the review committee is selected in part based on their skill set, and the other projects, they were at Metro Council representatives for the districts where the property was either located or touched, were asked to give suggestions of people who could be on this review committee. The expertise, like lawyers and other experts, usually come from Metro, and the review committee is 50-50 community and Metro government representatives. And experts from Metro government can and will be made available to the review committee as needed to help answer any questions. Okay. And other new thoughts come up after I say that? Okay. All right.
Make sure that you do have a notation that the committee be made public.
Yes, I put that over there.
That we're gonna look into that.
Yes, that
Tentative
the,
notice.
And if the West Louisville Council can strongly urge Metro government, just for sake
Consider
of
it.
After
Consider the
transparency,
urging.
yeah, it could be afterwards, but
So
just.
that nobody's
Yeah.
lobbying, I can understand.
yeah, I
why
said
they
names of
would.
of review committee released at the end of the selection process.
During
Yeah.
an announcement or whatever. And here is your committee.
Yeah.
Come on down.
Maybe we can do a big report.
After announcement. Okay. And then you also, Teresa, said that she would look into the mowing schedule
Yes,
for the
I will.
property
Mhm.
and redoubling your efforts to get the dumping either removed or stopped
That's
on the
right.
site.
Maybe both.
And there are potential or possibilities for us as a council and the community to do things around the site
Yep.
to engage the community.
Yes.
Our pop-ups such as art installations that could be on the site but don't ask or invite people to come onto the site for insurance purposes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Very good.
All right.